you can't be angry at the world. I mean, it's the universe doesn't care what you think. It's kind of like if you don't put the effort in, nothing's coming your way. So you kind of need to, set up plans today for what you want tomorrow. And if you don't do that, don't expect it tomorrow, and don't be angry at the world for that.
Rightio, this is Site to Studio episode 12.
Wow, 12.
With Andrew. How do I say your last name?
Jhavery.
Jhavery. What's that? Where's that come from?
So Jhavery's from my dad's side of the family, and so his dad was Indian and his mum South African. So yeah, Indian South African.
Awesome.
Basically. Yeah.
We've actually never met, right? This is
we
first time we met, and I kind of like the feel of this was we're going to learn about each other. So as we go along with everyone else learning about you as well.
Yeah, cool, man.
So all I know about you is you're from Sydney. You're a cabinet maker. I just learned that you also played the drums for a long time.
Yeah.
And I'll leave the rest to you. Tell us who Andrew is.
Who Andrew is. All right, great. That's pretty deep. I mean, I think I started with I guess I'll start with where I'm at now, and I'll sort of go back from there. Obviously currently I'm CEO and founder of Ark Joinery, and I've recently created another business called Cabbage, which is basically manufacturing for the trade. And prior to being a cabinet maker, I basically spent about 10 years touring as a professional musician. And I was a drummer, sponsored by Mapex Drums down here in Melbourne, actually. And just spent a lot of time with various sort of acts throughout Australia, overseas. And yeah, that was my job. I played drums for a living for about 10 years. And I guess, for me, everything's been about sort of opportunity to get to where I am today. And, I still think that that's a big part of, how you progress in your career. And that's certainly how I sort of fell into music was, small opportunities that came my way, and just not being afraid to sort of jump on that and grab each opportunity with both hands.
Yeah. And then how did you get into cabinet making? What was the opportunity that sort of brought you into that?
So I guess I'm a housing commission kid. So I grew up, I didn't really sort of have a whole lot to do with my family. And, I guess I've always been that kind of person that sort of, I didn't just have one group of friends. I didn't have, one set thing I wanted to do, in terms of, when I left school or anything like that. Got into a bit of trouble when I was younger. I was kind of on the fringe a lot, and I didn't really know what I wanted to do with my life. So I actually just remember when I was sort of the last few years of school, and when I did leave school, it was more about just trying everything. And that's literally what I did. I tried everything I could get my hands on. It's almost like a running joke at my 21st birthday that I had like 200 jobs or something before I was 21, because I'd do something, I'd do it for a week, and I'd be like, nah, this is shit, on to the next one. And I think I remember I was working for one of my mates down at Maroubra, Phil King, and he gave me a job, just doing some carpentry and stuff, and we were installing a kitchen. And I just remember going, okay, I think this is what it is. I was getting something from it. It was hard work. It was a very basic kitchen, but, it was kind of like, that was the first time I actually had some pride in what I did. And I think that's where it started. So yeah, it would have been many years ago. And then over the years, I just continued working for different people, just helping them. And then, sort of getting my own skill set up to a level at which I could then start thinking about things in a bit more detail, and then wanting to do things at a higher, sort of with a bit more higher quality to it. And it just sort of evolved, man. That's really how I got into it.
So how old were you when you did that first cabinet making job?
Mate, I'd say probably like late teens, early 20s.
Yeah.
I'm 35 now, so, it's quite a few years, it was 15 years ago, 16 years ago. But I didn't come through the traditional way most cabinet makers do. Like I didn't go through like your typical apprenticeship, 3 years, work at a cabinet shop, that kind of thing. I did do that, but I didn't, I did that with multiple companies after the fact, but I was in my sort of later 20s, because in that early period, I was focused on other things, music, sport. I wasn't really looking for a career at that point. I was just enjoying life, I guess, you know.
Yeah. So then how does that take you into Ark Joinery? Give us that story of how Ark Joinery came about.
Yeah, so again, Ark Joinery, really as Ark Joinery, has only really been around for 3 years. I started the company actually as Amazing Shutters, which was timber shutters, PVC and aluminium shutters. Prior to that, I was working with another company who's like a big, I guess, wholesaler in Australia. And I sort of thought to myself, okay, this is actually not a bad gig. I liked it, had the same sort of thing, like I was getting a bit of a kick out of it. It looked really nice when I finished it, and it was fairly straightforward and easy to do. So I thought maybe I'll start a company and you know, start doing a few jobs just to get my name out there. And then as I started doing that, more and more customers would ask me, they'd be like, oh, could you get a cabinet for us, or could you build us a wardrobe as well? And then I started to realize that actually the shutter side of the business wasn't as good as what I expected through experience, through actually doing it. There's a lot of cowboys in that industry, and it's not really regulated. So anyone and everyone had their, you know, finger in the pie, including the wholesalers. And you'd be competing against the actual wholesalers and you could never win. So I just thought to myself at that point, there was enough demand, there was enough interest coming from clients. I knew like enough builders, I knew enough people in the industry. And I had enough experience where I could start thinking about, okay, maybe, you know, I can start installing my own work and start small. And that's pretty much what I did. I sort of transitioned at that point because I just listened to my business. The business was telling me, you know, let's go down this route. You can control manufacturing. And yeah, that's basically how I sort of went from, you know, that's how I got it started basically. But it was, it's been a massive journey in a short period of time.
Yeah. So what's that 3 years been like, looked like for Ark Joinery? Like, how did you start? Was it just you? Did you have guys right away, or did you machinery? You know, like what was that process? So I talked earlier just a little bit about taking opportunity, and man, to be honest, I had no idea where to start. Like I've never run a factory, I've never managed a factory or guys, and I had to basically find my first opportunity. I don't know if you've got Gumtree down in Melbourne, but we've got Gumtree in Sydney, and I'm just a Gumtree. Like I'm a fiend on Gumtree. I'm always looking for something. Gumtree demon.
Gumtree demon, man. Like and 5-10 years ago, it was even like way better than it is now. You know, Facebook Marketplace has pretty much ruined it, but Gumtree was the place, right? And you could find like little opportunities. And I started out by just thinking to myself, oh, I need to find a factory. That's probably the first thing I'm going to need. So I'd start looking at ads and just seeing, you know, what was available and imagining, oh, yeah, maybe I can afford that, with no sort of real plan in place. And I just kept doing that. And then I just remember after, you know, while I was working, one day this ad popped up, and it was an old Russian guy in Botany, and his name's Boris, and half the industry knows who Boris is. Just a real sort of no bullshit kind of Russian guy, you know, and he runs a company called Outboard Kitchens. I'm still good friends with him and his kids today. And they, you know, they're in their niche of the market, you know, focus on rental kitchens. And he had an ad up actually for wanting someone to sort of share space in his factory. And that was kind of a light bulb moment for me. I was like, oh, okay, here's an opportunity that I can, you know, I knew that 9 out of 10 people wouldn't take, you know, because there's probably a lot of risk associated with it. You don't know what you're getting into. And I just saw that as an opportunity that I could just have a crack at, basically. So I called him and went in and had a chat to him, and it actually didn't go to plan. It didn't really work out, that sort of initial meeting. And then fast forward a couple of months, it was in the back of my mind. I just, you know, thought, okay, I'll wait for the right opportunity. And the client had called me with a job that was worth my time. And I just thought, all right, now I'm going to give it a crack, you know. So I called him and, you know, ended up just somehow getting my way in, getting my foot in the door. And that basically started it all for me. I got to sort of see how they were doing things, I like to think of myself as a pretty quick learner. If I can see it and feel it, I know what's going on. And that's basically how that journey started. With Boris, really. I pestered him to teach me CAD. And it was probably that side of it that I didn't really have a really big understanding on at that time. And then I sort of basically had a crash course in cabinet vision. And within a couple of months, I'd sort of taken what he'd shown me and I just really started running with it. I just sort of, I think within 6 months, I'd had my first big major contract with Richard Cook's Constructions. And we went from there.
Yeah. So working with Boris, he taught you how to program. You had a space that you could build cabinets.
Yeah.
And you were using his CNC for cutting edge.
Correct. Yeah.
As well. So that's a fantastic. I mean, that's how I started. So my dad runs a factory.
Yeah.
So
right.
my company's been around for 2 years as well.
Okay.
I fucking said this how many times on this podcast, but we just met. So my company's been around 2 years.
Yeah.
Before that, I was selling retail kitchens while I was at uni.
Yeah. Right.
Like for mum and dad's private jobs.
Mm.
And I went to school to study construction management, so I got no trade back. So I don't even have a trade background like you.
Yeah.
I started. He would cut an edge for me. They'd assemble the cabinets. They wouldn't set them up, but they just put the box together, send them on site, and I get a subby to install them.
Mm.
So only this year have we moved into a factory, and I've got 4 guys working for me now. But quite a similar timeline.
Yeah.
To where you are.
Definitely. It moves quickly too, and you're a pretty switched on guy just from talking to you in the last 10 minutes. Joinery is kind of one of those things where it can move as quickly or as slowly as you allow it to. And
don't tell the clients that, man.
No, well, I mean, not in terms of the project. Definitely not the project.
Yeah, don't get it twisted.
No, right? Don't get it twisted, man. Definitely don't get it twisted. But I definitely think that you can learn a lot really quickly, but you're going to get burnt, you're going to get hurt, and you need the energy to get back up again and again and again, because you can take it easy and then in 3 years sort of develop slowly and not be as, I guess, shattered by another guy next to you who's just gone from zero to hero in 3 years and is just has no energy left as well. So it can really burn you quick if you're not if you're not taking care of yourself and if you're not up for it.
Yeah, I mean, like we went from retail kitchens to doing high-end architectural. Like it was a huge fucking jump. And
massive.
Like you said, you get kicked in the nuts so many times, but you're just going to keep moving.
That's it, man. Yeah. It's not about how hard you hit. It's about how hard you can get hit. That's really what it's about. And it's also about being aware of, I would say, if anything, in the last 3 years, the biggest takeaway from my business so far is not the fact that, I've grown to such a level, or I've got, 15 employees, or I've got this, or I've got that, or my turnover is that. It's actually the fact that I'm a lot more aware of myself, because a business is ultimately going to be a reflection of the owner. It starts from the top and it works its way down. So even your apprentices are going to reflect the way that you show up to your business each and every day. And you're not going to get it right every day. Like I certainly haven't. But over the course of a few years, you start to see the patterns. You start to see, in yourself, you have self-awareness, and you're able to handle bad news and pressure and all this stuff a lot better than you probably would have 24 months ago, and that, like, it's hard for us to see the progress when we're just dealing with shit after shit after shit. Because ultimately, when we're doing joinery, we're seeing a lot of problems. And like for us as business owners, it's like, man, I had this whole job and at the end it looked amazing, but there was 500 problems. And then you go from that, and then you have to go to facing a whole lot of other problems within another project. And for me now, I might have 15 jobs all running concurrently. And it's like this, sometimes it's like too much to even think about. I got a problem here and I got that problem there and a supplier issue there and 4 staff not showing up on that day. And so it really becomes about how you manage yourself and how you show up and how you can be aware of, the red flags early on, so that it doesn't just become all consuming and drain you of that energy that you need to have a successful business.
Yeah. What are the, let's talk about the practical side first. What are the things that you put in place to sort of have your business run as smoothly as possible, from software to management staff to processes? Like, what are the things that have worked for you?
I think I like to try things really quickly. I like to try a lot of things and get rid of the things that don't work quickly. That's probably been sometimes too quickly for my staff and my team, because, I'll be talking about implementing a software and then 2 weeks later we're implementing a whole another software and, that's not working. So sometimes it can be a little bit quickly. The things that I would say is that you definitely need to have technology on your side. If you're doing things the way that businesses were doing them 20 years ago, and if you think about it, most people that start up a business learn the trade from someone else. So I think that's the best way to do it. Not aware that there might be 1,000 tools out there that can make their job a whole lot easier. Yeah. And in our industry, the joinery industry, I kind of feel like we're going through this big shift where, I was fortunate enough to learn from guys that were cutting on panel saws, with handwritten cut lists, and they were amazing joiners, right? Cabinet makers. But you can be an amazing cabinet maker but not have a really good business, if that makes sense. So I think there's a bit of a shift happening now where a lot of the business owners that are coming, a lot of the young guys like you and myself are coming into it. We're not like the traditional cabinet maker. We're kind of more like focused on the business as a whole and wanting to innovate and have technology and have processes and software. Like my whole factory is paperless. I've got screens everywhere. Everyone's on an iPad. Everyone's part of our in-house project management software. Our in-house Gantt charts sync up to all of our calendars, so we can plan things a certain way. And it's not perfect, but it's a lot better than what a lot of other people are doing as well, because it's really difficult to manage multiple projects that might have 200 touch points in a project, and you've got to get them all right. Someone's got to sign off on it. And the key thing that has made my business move forward quickly has been trying to integrate technology and giving each person a slice of accountability. So your job is to make that cabinet this way. Here's the process, but it's your job to do that, not mine.
So what does the Ark Joinery software suite look like? So we'll get into cabinet, because I know cabinet. I've looked a little bit into it.
Okay.
But just the Ark Joinery.
Okay. So look, there's all-in-ones. I mean, there's ERP softwares out there that you can get.
What are you using?
I use a bunch of different things.
Yeah. So what does the whole suite look like?
Okay, cool. Yeah. So, I use PandaDoc for all my quoting. I'll go from start to finish, basically, right? So, we've got our own in-house marketing software, right? Our own CRM, Lead Flow. And it incorporates everything that's out there about Ark Joinery. So we know not only traffic, like we know how much work we've got coming in. We might have $10 million worth in the pipeline just sitting there that we're working on. We know how much is current. We know all the jobs that are being paid. So I think having a really good, solid CRM is probably the most important foundation for any joinery business, because if you can't see your marketing dashboard quickly and easily, you don't know where you're really at. You don't know kind of what's coming in.
So the CRM is inbound leads.
Yep.
Capacity, or like sales pipeline slash capacity planning based on revenue.
Yep.
And is that, and you said it's a custom, like is it a custom solution or what?
Yeah. So we've got a marketing company up in Brisbane.
Yeah.
Adam Wallace and Cassie at Content First.
Yeah.
They're amazing. And what we did is we sort of sat down early on in the piece, and when I started the first couple of years of business, I was just like everyone else. It was referrals. I was getting a lot of referral work. It was just a lot of the same builders. It was kind of like that kind of stuff. What we didn't want to happen as a business, as we started progressing, is, early on in the piece, I lost a bit of money to a couple of builders. And I've heard on your podcast similar stories, and just, industry wide, it's a problem. So we didn't want to fall into that trap, especially with COVID coming, where we were relying just on a few builders or the same kind of guys. We wanted to sort of diversify our product offering. And so we linked up with a marketing company, and they're really good. We had this idea that we wanted to have everything in-house, and they basically developed the platform to suit us. And we've got everything from, the initial dashboards to reports to Google rankings, everything in the one place. We can see our reputation quickly. We can see, if people are talking about us, if posts are trending, all our socials, everything in one place.
Yeah. So that's a CRM.
That's our CRM.
And then does that go into quoting then?
Yeah. So what happens with our CRM is we automate a lot of the process. So we stopped doing free quotes for builders, architects, or resi about 18 months ago. We don't do it. We don't ever go and do a free quote. So we charge a fee, $199 per space. And the reason that we do that is because when we quote, we don't just quote. We won't just guess a price. If it's someone I know, I might just give them a rough estimate, like especially builders. It's hard to do that. But generally, I want to have a very accurate price because I don't want to waste your time. I don't want to waste my own time. And if you're serious about the project, the $199 fee is nominal. So what you're doing by doing that, you're actually onboarding that person.
You're qualifying your clients.
Well, you're not qualifying. They become a client. They're paid $199. So the psychology of the sale that way, I mean, let's take, for example, a $50,000 kitchen. There's a lot of joinery companies out there. There's a lot of cabinet makers out there. There's a lot of bad stories as well, right? Trades have, they get a bit of a bad rep, as well, because there's some dodgy guys out there.
Fair enough, yeah.
So if you don't know anything about the industry, you want to spend a fair bit of money on a kitchen. For us, it's kind of like a stepping stone into the bigger picture. So it's like, here, pay us $199. We're going to give you this, 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 and this. And we do. We over-deliver straight up front. Like, we'll draw the entire job, like photorealistic renders. We go all out. Like, the presentation that we deliver is probably, like, I haven't seen anyone else do it. And we spend that amount of time and effort on that because we want to build trust. We want to do it the right way. But we also are holding ourselves accountable to the end product. Like, we're saying, hey, you're going to spend 50 grand on this kitchen, and this is exactly how it's going to look. Like, this photo here, it's not an artistic representation. It actually links to cabinet vision.
So your cost basis on the $199 quote is closer to $600.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. Like, it's that whole premise where you want to get rid of the tire kickers as well. But you know what I mean? Like, you got to assess, if someone wants to work with you, it's got to be worth your time, right? And if they're serious about it, like, what's $200, Okay. But it gets rid of it can get rid of a lot of the sort of people that aren't serious, really.
All right, so Charlie comes to you, you put me in your CRM, we have our consultation, blah, blah, blah. I pay, say, okay, I want to quote.
Yeah.
I pay my $199.
Yep.
Then what do you got? Then, like, what's the next part of the system?
Yeah, so it goes through a bit of a process, but basically, it follows everyone else's, I guess, traditional method. You got to measure. You sort of got to have a chat to them about what they want. We'll draw it up. When we draw it up, we use cabinet vision to price, right? And cabinet vision is very powerful if you use it the right way. Like, have you got cabinet vision?
We run Mosaic.
And does that give you bid reports and stuff, like, to be able to price jobs?
We use JobMan.
JobMan, okay. So the ERP, right? So we use cabinet vision because when we're drawing it, you can allocate labour prices. You can do.
They're called cost centres or bid centres.
Yeah, the bid centre.
Yeah.
And in that bid centre, you can set up multiple different ways of pricing. Because, as you know, you might have a residential client, you might have a builder, so you might need different ways of pricing things. You might have different pricing matrices set up for different clients. And if you have stone or poly or things like that, you can do that all very effectively in cabinet vision. And then when you're drawing, you're not just you're killing two birds with one stone because you're pricing accurately. That's the main thing. Now, once you've got that price, the way we price, we do it so that we know what our margins are, like what we can play with, right? You can do whatever you want with your quote from that point, but then we're very confident in our pricing. And that's probably where a lot of people get that first bit wrong, was they sort of go, oh, that seems a bit expensive, or, I don't know why that wardrobe is.
I'm just going to push back a little bit. So I'm a client. So as a cabinet maker, I know there's guys who charge anywhere from 20% to 55% gross margin,
right?
Which is fair enough, because it's a free market, baby. We can do whatever we want.
Yep.
How does the client know that you're pricing at a level that's acceptable for them?
Okay, and this is the
do you work out a scope for their budget and you design to their budget?
No, so look, we kind of generally, we're very clear in the sense that when we let our clients know that we're never going to be the cheapest. As simple as that. That's the first thing. Second thing is cost is irrelevant. It's the value. It's all about value. It's not actually about a cost, right? It's like, oh, I only want to spend 10 grand. Well, 10 grand might be expensive for a cabinet, but it's not that expensive for a plane, right? So cost is irrelevant. It's about the value. Like, what do they want, right? Do they want just a cheap cabinet in the corner? They don't really give a shit about them renting out the garage? Or is this their house and they've been thinking about it for 25 years and now they have the budget to do it properly? Cost is one of those things that I guess that's all about the relationship that you build with that client, or the relationship that the architect has with that client and that you have with the architect or the builder. So to a degree, I
agree with you, because we are selling a relatively homogeneous product.
Correct.
So so that becomes the baseline. So a high quality cabinet is the baseline.
Yeah.
So what you're competing on is actually the customer experience.
Yeah.
So,
but it's everything else around the cabinet. It's not, so building a cabinet nicely is one thing, right? And to get that right is difficult, right? Because there's so many different factors, and I won't get into that. But in terms of what you're delivering as value to your client, what they perceive as value and what makes them happy at the end of the transaction has way more to do with things like the resources that are available, right? If it's a big job, you could be the best cabinet maker, but you're only one man and you've got one offsider, and the client's going to have a bad experience because they don't really care about how good the cabinet is itself, but they had a bad experience with the communication with you. There was no one following them up. It took longer, and they're the things that tick someone off, right? So it's all about aligning, the actual value with the client correctly. So being able to say, hey, this is a $20 million house, right? And there's heaps of joinery. You need the resources to do that. You can't just have one or two guys. You need to have like maybe 5 guys on site. You need to have someone dedicated to contacting that person every day.
So what you're speaking to is value-based pricing as opposed to cost-based pricing.
Well, yeah, and I steer away from the cost-based pricing thing, because how quickly can a job just blow out? If you've only just sort of gone, well, I've got a cost of a cabinet plus, 20% or 30%. A lot of the time people shoot themselves in the foot, because when something goes wrong, they haven't really thought about the entire process and what that client wants, So it really is important to understand your client correctly, but also you've got to be competitive in your market is what I would say, So if you're in a higher end market, I mean, you can't be, 2,000% more than the other guys. Like, it's just not going to work, right? You just won't get the work, right? So you can push it and see what it does. You might get lucky and get 1 or 2 jobs, but generally, yeah. And look, it's a tactic that's used in the industry when guys are busy. They'll push their prices up, right? Because the whole adage is just say no through pricing. If you're too busy, just say no through pricing, like it up, right? So people do, the market tries to do that, but generally the market speaks for itself, and people will pay what they're going to pay. So, yeah.
Right. So and you said you use PandaDoc for quoting. Is that for the sign-off component?
Yeah. So once we've gathered the information from Cabinet Vision, we generate all the reports, and what that allows us to do is it gives us accurate measurements on things. How many square meters of paint, how many cabinets, how many sheets I need to order, et cetera, et cetera. Then we can build our quote. And and then once we've got the Cabinet Vision file ready as well, we then, off the back of that, we have a plugin which we use to render, which gives us like the really nice renders and walkthroughs and stuff. And then we compile all that into the document. And we use PandaDoc because, I've been using it since I started the business. It's a really good document because I guess there's plenty of templates. It's intuitive, but mainly the analytics side of it's really good. You're able to see, how many times people open
the quote.
Mate, I've had clients 2 years after the fact open a document 23 times in 4 hours, and then we give them a call and we end up getting the job. Like, it's amazing. Like, and it also gives you an insight into the person you're dealing with, because as a cabinet maker or as a business owner, I don't know how many times you've gone, I've just sent you that email, just making sure you got it all good, blah, blah, blah. And they say, I haven't got it. We know they have. So it's just good.
Call them out.
Yeah. Well, we know, but it's kind of, you just want to know that like they've got it, they've read it. The other really good thing about PandaDoc is it actually shows you where they've spent the majority of the time on the document. So has it been around pricing, or has it actually been around the visuals? Like, because that's giving you like psychology into your potential customer. and what are the things that they value most? Like, are they worried about the price? Are they more worried about the the visual aspect of it? How many times have they downloaded the document? So it's really good. Like from a quoting point of view, you've got a lot of useful information there as a business owner.
Well, if what we're selling is consumer experience, then any knowledge, any data that we can collect on consumer behavior is gold.
It is. And look, data we're joinery companies are just like every other business. You want to know who your customer is, and you want to try and make it a good experience for them. It's not just about, making more money or trying to get more sales or whatever. It's actually about adjusting for your client needs too.
No, it's recognizing that consumer experience is the variable, and paying attention to it.
For sure, paying attention to it's a big one, because a lot of people don't pay attention. A lot of people, and it's through no fault of their own. I think it's just you're kind of good at what you're good at. You might be a really good builder and hands-on you're amazing. I wouldn't say I'm the world's best joiner. I'm a good cabinet maker. I can put things together. I'm logical, I'm analytical in the way I think, but I'm a better global thinker. I'm a better visionary. I wouldn't say I don't give a shit about detail. I'm just like, get it done kind of thing, and I like trying big new ideas. So it's more about just aligning your personality with what's going to work for you. And if you don't have a skill set, trying to look for that in others, especially in your team, to try and get the best kind of balance.
Yeah. So then from PandaDoc quotes accepted, what does a production workflow look like and also from a software standpoint?
Yeah. So in terms of like how we roll it out,
resource management, purchase ordering, job scheduling. Just all those things really.
Again,
defects management.
We use software. So we've designed sort of our own in-house software that has basically template Gantt charts from start to finish. So we basically break our, start to finish of production in 3 major stages, and that's design and planning, so drawings, the production, so manufacturing, ordering, all that sort of stuff, and then the install, the site-based stuff. There are 3 major categories, and they expand with, a myriad of different tasks and checklists and everything. And then we sort of assign, early on in the piece, what we do is we really try and treat every job, because every job's different, but a lot of the tasks are the same. So you need procedures and checklists for each of those. So my guys at each point have, for example, if you're ordering, they'll open up the order. The ordering might be scheduled for tomorrow. There'll be a person assigned to it. The whole team has access to this, by the way. So everyone keeps everyone else accountable. So if we're busy and Spencer, my production manager, forgets to order, he's going to have Grace and Sarita on his case about it. They're going to be going, Spencer, how come you missed ordering yesterday? It's at 0%. It used to be me. It used to be me going, fuck, why didn't this happen? What the fuck? Like who forgot to order that? Like, where is it? Where's those runners? Do you know what I mean? That was just the worst, because all of a sudden you think 6 weeks is a long time, or 4 weeks is a long time, or 8 weeks is a long time. And man, you got 3 days before it's got to go out, and the place is on fire. Everyone's running around like. And you deliver a worse product. And you deliver a shit product, and you're not happy. And the thing is, this is the other thing that it does. When time becomes a pressure, it puts a pressure on everyone unnecessarily, right? So you go from everyone in
instead of grooving.
No, like
instead of grooving, you're
no
fucking
groove.
like you're tense.
It's everyone else. Don't worry about yourself, because
I'm saying
it's your team. It's the team. Because then you're going, man, you're not leaving until this is done. Like, where is that? And then everyone's blaming everyone. When if tasks are set out and the pressure is on for that task, so it's like, hey, Spencer, we're 6 weeks before that job's got to go, but you're not leaving until it's ordered. Sorry, man. You can't go home until it's ordered, bro. The pressure's on today, because then there's a little bit of pressure each day, and it's fair, right? And then people don't feel like, they're completely overwhelmed. And
you're talking a lot of shit about Spencer, man. What are you
Spencer's good, man. Spencer's been my right-hand man since I started the business. So yeah, he'll be listening to this.
Yeah.
Good job, Spence.
Good job, Spencer. Right. So that informs all your scheduling and everything.
Yeah.
Now the most difficult part in the business install. So what do you do for that? What's the strategy? You're an athlete.
Yeah.
What's the strategy? What's the game
strategy?
plan?
Look, installs just the hardest part really, because not only is there, I mean, obviously there's an obvious skill shortage in the industry. All the good guys go and start their own businesses. That's it in a nutshell. So trying to find guys that will deliver to your business what they could do on their own is really difficult to find. And on the flip side of that, there's a lot of guys that want sort of ridiculous money and they don't have the skill set, especially for detailed architectural joinery, right? I mean, I know some guys that in Sydney that, you know, I've had guys come in wanting $120 an hour and I've said
as subbies.
Yeah. Well, yeah. As a subby.
Yeah. And
then I've just said, well, come downstairs and show me how you install a flush face filler. Let's get going now. And like, they don't know what you're talking about. They don't know how to do it. So it's rife with
Well, I've been doing shadow lines for 15 years now.
Yes, you know what I mean? Like, or like, man, you need to scribe this, you know? And I'll just go, how do you scribe a filler? And I'll be like, do you know what the word scribe means? You know? And they're like, oh yeah, you just put a thing in and you're sort of going like, so that's not to say they're bad people. It's just that there's a big lack of skill in certain parts of our industry. And unless you take the time to either show them the skill you have or teach them what you want, you can't really get the best out of them. It's a very difficult thing. We're lucky that we used to use a lot of subbies. We still do use subbies, but we've got our own in-house installers. And what we've done differently in the last 12 months that I feel is a better way of doing it. We used to just have, you know, the guys on the CNC and edge bender, the machinists, then the assemblers, and then the site guys. The problem with that is that the site guys would go, oh, the assemblers fuck this up, you know, and the assemblers will go, oh, I don't know where that piece is, and et cetera, et cetera. So now what we do is we have 3 or 4 teams of 2. And that team has a tradesman and an apprentice, and it's their job to carry that job through the CNC, the edging, any machining, assemble it. Then we have subcontract delivery company that will pick up the job, take it into the rooms, and that same team will install it. And the reason we do that is there's full accountability there. It's a slower process. That's why we've invested in more teams, because then you've got teams revolving. They also don't get bored. I've found with our guys, you know, good guys that are, you know, on the bench, man, they get bored. They're sick of putting boxes together. They're just over it. And the guys on site get sick of the site stuff. So it gives them 2 big things. It gives them a change of scenery. It gives them a bit of, I guess, independence to control their day and their job. It gives us accountability. So it's like, hey, man, that's your job. Like, that wasn't done right. And it also gives them pride in the final product, because a lot of guys don't get to go out to site and see their work, you know. So we went down that avenue recently, and it's been really good for us. I've been really happy with the way that's panned out for us.
That's very interesting. That's very interesting. We're gonna stay on this topic for a bit.
Yeah, sure, man.
I'm sure in one or two of those teams, the tradesman has very limited or had very limited installation experience.
You know, so for us, like, you got to remember, I've tried a lot of things. Like, site's been one of the biggest headaches for me. I mean, it's the whole.
I'm very curious. Like, I'm trying to learn right now.
Yeah. So I've tried it all, man. Like, I've been on site. Like, I've got to the point where I was like, man, I'm pretty much the only guy that I have to be there to install. Like, I can't see a way out of this, you know, because I feel like I'm letting clients down, I'm letting customers down. No one gives a shit, blah, blah, blah. But it's not that. It's you've got to change the thinking from being like pessimistic to being like, okay, what's gonna engage my guys, right? And one of the first things that I did about a year ago was I thought to myself, hang on, when a lot of the jobs are coming out to site, the installer doesn't even know the client's name. The installer is going there and installing, and he's just like, you know, yeah, he might be a good installer, but there's no like pride for him. There's nothing like his name. He's not recognized as the guy. So what I started doing is I'd bring these installers to site when I was check measuring or when I was meeting a builder or whatever, and I'd be like, oh, hey, you know, this is Mark. He's one of my best installers. Mark, this is, you know, Brad. And I'd get that relationship going early. And then, 6 weeks, 8 weeks later, when they go to site and I'm not there, they've already got a little bit of a relationship. They know who each other are. And I've also sort of patted him on the back in front of the client, which sort of bolsters them up. Then they want to be there and they want to work for you. They want to do a good job because their kind of reputation's on the line as well. And then I sort of developed that. I went with that. I went, okay, the pride thing's working. Like we're getting more sort of I'm getting more give a shit from my guys doing this, So how do I evolve this? Like from start to finish for guys to give a shit from start to finish, And then I just thought, if you take it back a step, sure, if, from an efficient point of view, a factory might run better just having one guy on the CNC, right? But that's if you're doing volume-based, the same shit day after day. We're not. We're every project's different, even though the tasks are the same. So CNC, edging, doweling, whatever. But every job's different. It requires pride. And you're not going to get that pride if you've got one kid on the CNC for 40 hours a week because he doesn't give a shit. And no matter how much you give a shit, he won't. So the only way you can get him to give a shit is for him to buy into the project he's working on. And for that to happen, you have to have them go from start to finish with that project. And by doing that, you're creating accountability within that team because they can't blame anyone else. And you've got to give them the resources and the support. And you've got to sit down with them and go through drawings and educate them as they go. And they're going to make mistakes. They're going to fumble. Like my guys still make mistakes right now, probably making mistakes as I'm on this podcast back in Sydney, right? But that's okay. Our job's to be their coach and just be like.
Well, your job's to reduce the likelihood of the project's success. You don't bank on it being 100%. You're just increasing the likelihood. You're just trying to maximize the probability of success. It's not.
For sure. But you do that through, trying to develop different ways of working for your people that will yield a greater benefit.
You have to work for your people, man.
Yeah.
I don't give a fuck. You have to work for your people.
Mm-hmm.
Otherwise you're not going to get what you want. That's the start. You gotta build the culture. You gotta really understand what's in it for them. What gets them. And in Australia, in this beautiful, amazing country that we live in, unfortunately, it's not money.
Yeah, it's not.
Unfortunately, it's not money. Yeah,
it's and just team dynamics is a big thing, and culture. You touched on culture is a big thing. Like similar to a sporting group, right?
What sport did you play?
Oh, I was a sprinter, 100, 200 meter sprinter.
Great team sport.
Not a team sport at all, but I was fortunate.
But you had training partners.
I was on Australian teams, state teams. I ran at the 2000 Olympic trials. I had sports, and I played footy as well. Sport, team or individual, requires discipline, but also requires a culture, right? So even if you're in an individual sport, there is a culture there. What's acceptable, what's not. But there's usually a passion for a club or a jersey or a team or, if you're representing a country, there's a passion there, right? It's for the shirt. It's not for me. It's not for the money. Why do people, commit their lives, to go to the Olympics? And it's not the money, I can tell you that. So it's finding that thing that's going to motivate them beyond the money. But it's also important for them to be able to see, like apprentices, as an example. Apprentices in Australia in the joinery industry they're used as cheap labor. I mean, that's simply put, because everyone's under such pressure and everything's so expensive that you sort of you train them up to a level and you just go, okay, just put him on the CNC. Right? I'm busy. I've got to do something else, right? And then people wonder why there's no apprentices in our industry. Because, I mean, like as if you're an apprentice, you really want to be, just cheap, be treated like cheap labor essentially. So it doesn't mean you have to kiss their ass every 5 minutes, but I think if there's some kind of structure there and they feel like the company they're working for actually gives a shit about them, you're going to retain them. And that kind of spreads, that culture spreads. And even with qualified tradesmen, like by buddying up at Ark Joinery, we buddy up a tradesman with an apprentice. And when we do that, there's a lot of things the older tradesmen don't know, but that the young guys do, like how to run a CNC. Because they've been on site and they're working with their hands a lot more. So it's sort of like it kind of works, relationship works. They help each other out. And on bigger projects, you might have multiple teams, but it's always the responsibility of, whichever team the job falls under. It's their responsibility to go and get the help from our other guys and say, hey, I might need a few subbies on site to help me, because they're going to run the job, right? That accountability thing is really important. It's also, at the end of the day, what makes them feel good. And if they feel good about the job they're doing, they're going to stick around, man. I mean, you can't pay them shit. As long as you're paying them well enough, everything else lines up. But if they feel good and there's that pride there, man, they're going to stick around.
Yeah, I mean, like we say that, you know, that the people here are entitled or this, that, whatever. That's because you're thinking about money, and money isn't the variable. Culture is the variable.
Yeah.
In the same way that for your clients, customer experience is the variable. For your employees, culture is the variable. I think that's so people, like employees, need to shut the fuck up about everyone's so entitled. Everyone's so entitled. Okay, do something about it. You know, you're in a business. You're in control. Do something about it.
I think, you know, and you're right. Like, it's so easy. It's so easy to get caught up in that whole whinge culture too.
Fuck the politicians.
Yeah, or it's everyone else's fault.
Yeah.
Like, it's kind of like, you know, I hate working for builders or this and that. There's kind of like, there's a bit of a whinge mentality.
Do something about it.
Yeah, well, exactly, 100%. And sure, everyone has a tough time, right? I mean, there's always moments when you just like, fuck. I mean, sometimes there's days I want to go in and fire the whole factory, right? I mean, it's just, you know, that's running a business. Spence, you're gone. But I mean, that's part and parcel of running a business and growing and learning who you are too. You know what I mean? Because you're learning to deal with a whole lot of shit that you don't have experience in dealing with. I mean, especially at a young age, you know, I'm sure when you've got 20, 30 years experience, you probably won't care about that sort of stuff. But yeah, I think it's, do something about it is 100% correct.
Well, I mean, let's word it in a more empathetic, compassionate way, because I do understand that it's very difficult, right?
Yeah.
I guess do something about it just means hold yourself accountable.
Yeah.
Because once you hold yourself accountable, it means that you're in control.
Yeah.
That no politician, no regulation, no market can actually impact you because you're in control.
Yeah.
And that gives you the power and the freedom to do something
for
yourself.
Yeah.
So,
and the other thing is with that, I'd say that, look, it's okay to have a vent and to be upset about something or whatever. But like you said, recognize opportunity. And, you know, you sometimes you need to pivot. People have this thing in their head where they're like, I started this business and I'm just doing this one thing. Like, it might be architectural joinery, right? And I'm only going to do that. And even when the market's telling you pivot or look at something else or like look at the problems, you're not, you know, it's your ego. And if you can't put your ego in check, and if you can't say, you know, I'm running this business because it's Ark Joinery and it's me, and, you know, I only do architectural joinery, well, fuck, man, you're going to suffer. You're going to have to suffer one way or the other. There is no easy way, right? It's always hard, right? You want to be unhealthy and eat shit and fat. That's hard. It's not easy. But you want to train and be healthy. That's hard too. So you got to pick your hard. Which one do you want? So you can make a decision that's going to still be hard. You're going to have to maybe pivot your business or add a different product line or lower your expenses and get rid of a couple of staff. They're all hard things, right? You can't just keep going the way you're going, because that's going to be fucking hard. You're going to run into a big problem, and especially when you can see it coming. Sometimes the hardest decisions you've got to make for your business aren't fun ones. You just got to do them, you know? And I just think a lot of people are a bit naive in that sense. Or I feel like they've let their ego get to the point where it's not actually about what's good for the business. It's about what's good for their ego, you know, for themselves, you know, and that can be a dangerous place to play in.
Yeah, man. That's something that's very relevant, because, you know, like I find myself deferring the troubles of today to tomorrow quite often.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of it just comes from that anxiety and fear of like just wanting to run away sometimes, you know, and you procrastinate, you don't tackle you don't face things at all. And then, like you said, what's that doing for your future problems?
Yeah.
And what's that doing for your team? And what's that doing for, you know, like,
you have to trust your gut as well. Like if you're aware of it, there's signs, like, you know, the red flags, and you know they're there. And the other thing is, you can't be too hard on yourself. You can't be, you know,
you can't judge yourself.
No, because you procrastinating and doing things, the shoulda, coulda, woulda thing, it doesn't help you mentally. it actually drains you of the energy that you need to push forward and be a good business owner and be there for your team and stuff. But I would say that sometimes you just need to take your foot off the pedal. You know, for me recently, I'm only becoming aware of, you know, when I get to a certain point, I actually need to have a day off. I just got to get away from, go surf, go hang with my mates, go play golf or something. I never used to. I did 20-hour days. Like, I've got 2 kids under 7. The first 5 years of their life, I was just working, man. Like Saturday, Sunday, I didn't give a shit. I was just like, I'm going to be ruthless. I'm going to make this thing successful. And that's ego. That was me, like, pushing shit uphill, you know, unnecessarily too, because all of a sudden you become a bit of a control freak and you do that and you do that and blah, blah. And then your team's not actually helping you achieve the goal, you know? So until you can look at it differently and actually let the team help you get to your vision, it's just experience, it's time in the game, and you're going to learn one way or another. You got to burn your hand on the cooktop sometimes to figure it out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What do you're quite thoughtful and introspective about these things. Where does that come from?
I don't know.
Just doing a lot of psychedelics when you were playing.
Man, I've lived a colourful life. I'll just say, like, you know, I'm a housing commission kid. You know, I've been in a lot of trouble, you know, when I was younger. I didn't go through the normal avenues to get here. But I've been one of the most fortunate people that I know, because I always look for an opportunity, but then I take it. Like, the things I would do, a lot of people sort of, even my own mates, it's tiresome for them because they're just like, oh, fuck, here we go again. Andrew's up to something, you know, he's starting a new business, or he's doing this, or he's doing that. That's my energy. I'm just, man, I'm looking. Let's go. And I would say I didn't have that formal family structure growing up. I was adopted and we moved around a fair bit. And, you know, I had a house fire when I was really young. My younger brother, you know, 70% of his body's 3rd degree burn, he's brain damage, he's epileptic. He only just got out of jail. So we've got a very rocky sort of family life. But
that's rough. Yeah.
I've had to, you know, but in saying that, I've grown up with an amazing group of solid mates around me, friends and people around me. And their family became like my family. I started learning these things early on, but I also learned how to hustle and get what I needed and, you know, sort of get ahead. And I guess having to rely on yourself and having to sort of, you know, want something and chase it, you know, I feel like the kind of thing I'm worried about for my kids is that everything I wanted, I really wanted intrinsically, and I chase it to the death. Whereas I feel like for a lot of people, through no fault of their own, by the way, it's just kind of like we live in a bit of a very fast, like, I want it now kind of thing. There's no instant gratification. And there's, you know, when it doesn't pan out, it's like, oh, fuck this isn't working. What else am I going to look at? Instead of going, you know, I really want to be a drummer. Like, I didn't have drums when I wanted to play drums. Like, I was in a housing commission with a leather chair and skewers, and that's how I started. I really wanted to play drums. I couldn't afford a drum kit, but I wanted it. I envisioned it. I kept like imagining, and eventually I got there.
There you were at South by Southwest.
There I was, you know, yeah, at the Playboy Mansion, you know, and I got to do some amazing things just by not giving up. I'm not the best drummer. I'm not the best, smartest guy in the world, but I really wanted it enough. And you find an opportunity. And what tends to happen is when opportunities present themselves, people get scared of that. People are like, oh, nah, like, it's a scam, or it's not going to work out for me. Or it's kind of like, you know, the universe is telling you, man, here's something you can do. Like, you kind of got to put a little bit of trust into the unknown and go with your gut and just go wholeheartedly. I mean, what's the worst that's going to happen? It's not going to work out and you move on to something else. Like, but if you don't try, like, that's not going to help you either.
Yeah.
Yeah. So,
and all that, all of those, all that experience, that's the foundation for why you're so grateful. And that's the foundation of your gratitude.
I'd say so. I just think that, yeah, man, I think I've been very fortunate, honestly. Like, I've been in some bad situations, but I've always, you know, something's been looking out for me, and an opportunity has come. You know, when I've put the effort in, it has come. I've also been smacked, like, I've been spanked hard, you know, through, you know, through my own fault. Like, you kind of, it doesn't go, you can't be angry at the world. I mean, it's the universe doesn't care what you think. It's kind of like if you don't put the effort in, nothing's coming your way, you know. So you kind of need to, you know, set up plans today for what you want tomorrow. And if you don't do that, don't expect it tomorrow, and don't be angry at the world for that, you know. Yeah.
So be relentless in your pursuit, but also be relentless in your optimism.
100%. You got to be optimistic, man. You got to, you know, it's kind of like, as long as 9 times out of 10 my optimism is worth it, then it's a good thing, you know, because you want to be an optimistic person. You don't want to be a cynical, sort of angry, beaten up.
Oh,
like, do you know what I mean? Like,
mate, that's the one thing.
It's tiring.
I'm about to turn 25.
Yeah, you're so fucking young, man.
I'm about to turn 25, and I'm like, I really don't want to become a cynical person.
Yeah,
and I catch myself sometimes.
Yeah.
Sometimes, you know, like in the business world, you're just like, just like.
Yeah,
just
man.
like,
yeah, and you know what? But what that tells me is that you got great awareness now at an early age. I never had that at your age. Like, I'm getting that in my 30s. Like, the shit I did, I look back on now. Like, someone said to me the other day, I said, you know, when you know, got in trouble when you were, you know, 18, 19, imagine if you know, Andrew now met Andrew then, like we'd be in a punch up in the street, like just no understanding, completely opposite ends of the world, right?
That's such a beautiful thing, isn't it? Like, that growth is such a beautiful thing.
And if you can see it, right? But you, like, when you have awareness, you can make decisions, right? If you don't have awareness, it's like ignorance is bliss. You don't even know what you're missing out on because you just don't get it, right? But when you have an awareness, you almost have an obligation to make the most of it, right? Because you can see things that other people necessarily might not be able to, right? And you can also change things for the better for yourself. That's probably the most important thing. You have control over tomorrow with awareness.
You hold yourself accountable.
Yeah, You don't have to be big. Like, people think accountability is like, you know, rock up to work at 6:30 a.m. and do blah, 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 and get all those things done and blah. That's not accountability. Accountability is the little things, right? It's like you can't make a freight train like do a U-turn at 400 kilometers an hour. You got to nudge it. Like, it's going from Sydney to Newcastle. I don't want it to go to Newcastle. I want it to go to Alice Springs. And I start with small nudges, and they turn into huge changes over time. Huge.
I saw an excellent video. I don't know. I forgot who made it. He was talking about innovation in companies.
Yeah.
He was talking about, most people think about innovation with an end goal.
Yeah.
Like, we're going to create the best system for our business, and all our CRM production area is going to run on it. And then we spend all this time, effort, money trying to get there, and it's so hard to get there, and it's, say, 70% right. What the smart companies do, like the Amazons,
get it going.
You just make, the question is, the guy he asked was, what's the easiest, quickest thing that we can do? It's going to yield us the biggest benefit for the business.
Yep.
And then you do that, and then you ask the same question. What's the quickest, easiest thing we can do?
Yep.
What's the quickest, easiest thing? And then you end up in a place, like you said, you end up in fucking Alice Springs.
Yeah. And when I was playing music, it's a perfect example, is that, you know, a lot of musicians, a lot of bands and stuff, they'll spend 5 years trying to make the most perfect album.
Yeah.
But the market doesn't give a shit. They moved on.
The sound card rappers are doing better than you.
Man. And guess what? CDs are gone. Like, you know what I mean? I just made this mad CD. Oh, what's MP3? Like, you know, fuck, we spent that long making an album. It's got, like, we're prehistoric.
Like an MP3. We're on NFTs now, baby.
And the kid that, like, you know, recorded a rap album in his bedroom becomes Eminem. Like, it's like, mate, just put it out and then evolve, and then put it out and evolve, and put it out and pivot and evolve. And then, because you're listening to the world, you're not, see, we got this thing in us where, especially if you're creative, whether it's business or music or whatever it is, about making it polished and perfect, and, I don't know, it's not quite there, or I'm not ready for business, or I'm not ready for them, blah, blah. It's like, man, fuck that. Just do it.
That's insecurity.
It is. Everyone's got it, man. Everyone's got it. But that doesn't mean, like, don't think about it, right? That doesn't mean, like, fuck.
Don't fully do it.
Don't be foolish, right? But have an awareness, give a shit, do enough, and then go. Because if you're just sitting there forever trying to make it perfect, or forever bouncing ideas, you know, I'm thinking about doing this. There's another big thing. I don't know where I read it, but basically the whole premise of it is that just shut the fuck up and do it. Don't tell people that you're going to do something, because what that does is actually gives you a dopamine hit, right? So if I say, hey, man, I'm just about to start this business, blah, blah. What that does psychologically, it's just like big clap. Yeah, you've done it. And your brain actually goes, it gets everything it wanted to from that, from a chemical point of view. It gets the dopamine hit, and then it's like I think it's like you're 30 or 43% less likely to then commit to doing that thing.
Mate,
how many times has that happened?
I'm laughing because I've literally brought myself to tears because I had the most amazing idea. Like literally, I'm like, holy shit, this is amazing. Yeah. And you get high off it.
Yeah, man. And you tell everyone, you go, man, I've just got this idea. I'm doing this, and this, and blah, 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 blah. And it's like 6 months of talking about it. And then, a year later, you'll be walking down the street and someone goes, hey, Charlie, man, what happened with that fucking groundbreaking hat idea you had? And you're like, fuck that. I didn't bother with it.
Yeah.
Because I got the joy, I got everything out of it. Whereas if you just shut the fuck up and do it and then release it and then tell everyone, hey, man, go to www.madhat.com and have a look at my hat. Like, it's about timing things right, not waiting for the perfect product, but actually doing something about it, because you'll feel better for it, A, but B, people respect you for that as well. People you'll find your tribe that way. People will actually be like, man, this guy's actually doing something. He's not talking about it. He's actually doing something.
Yeah, I mean, like I was just talking about this with a mate the other day. Like, one beautiful thing about this generation and where we are is it's very open. Like, we can talk about, mental health. We can talk about these things. We can share ideas. We can, which a lot of it's frowned upon. But one side effect is that we feel like we've actually done something by talking about
100%.
100%.
So,
and especially us young guys need to be careful.
Yeah. I'd go one step further and say, mental health's a funny one, right? Because, and I've got it in my family. My brother's severely mentally ill, schizophrenic actually. I've got a long history of mental illness in my family. And what I would say, one thing I have noticed is I think there's a difference between being upset, maybe slightly depressed. It's, I don't know. The whole depression thing is a funny subject to me, because
depression's thrown around like
it's thrown around
like I got a cold.
Yeah. And look, I think it's great that people are talking about it, and I think there's initiatives out there that are sort of helping people with things and stuff. But I also think, like, if you sort of become what you think about and what you talk about. And if you're constantly talking about on negative things, and I'm in a negative space, you're not doing yourself any favors. Now, that's completely different to someone who's got a chemical imbalance and they're depressed. They're taking like medication for it, or something heavy's happened, or they've come back from war or something. You know what I mean? There's depression, and then there is like, maybe you need a lifestyle change, man. Maybe you shouldn't be drinking on the weekend and getting on it every weekend. Maybe that's your depression. Do you know what I mean?
How many people say OCD? But you don't know what real OCD is.
Just be honest with yourself. Exactly. Or ADHD. You know what I mean? Like, how many people, I think it's just about being really clear and honest with yourself about what the actual problem is, so that you can honestly move forward and be happier. That's all it should come down to.
There's also one aspect is sort of society rewards you, because it's talking about mental health is in a lot of ways people do it from a place of virtue signaling.
That badge of honor kind of thing.
Look at me, I'm whatever.
I think you got to believe the best in, and that's the cynicism that can creep in, right?
It's not just Spence in the hot seat today. I'm in the fucking hot seat.
No. But I mean, I 100% understand what you're saying. I get it, but I also think we should always believe the best in people. Really.
Well, the optimistic view is, now it's virtual signaling, but once it gets so prevalent that it's just like normal, then that social value decreases and it's just normal.
It does. Well, I think it's healthy to be talking about things that are obviously a big problem as part of society. I mean, suicide numbers and things like that don't lie, right? And they're big, right? So that does tell you that there is an issue, right? There is an issue. So if by way of virtue signaling, we prevent that, then maybe, like, how bad is it? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I think once we go over the hump, it'll just be normal, and then it won't be like, it's not like, it won't be cool to say it's just like, it just is what it is.
Well, the reason that it's cool or whatever is just because people have allowed a platform to be able to stand on a cliff and shout, and you've got Facebook and Instagram and TikTok and whatever. So, and this is part of the problem, is that people are so worried about comparing their own backyard to everything they see online, and it's been curated just for you based on your interests, et cetera, et cetera. I mean, you're in this echo chamber of bullshit, basically, right? And if you don't have an ability to switch off or an awareness to be able to go, well, this is Facebook just keeping me in this fucking loop so it can keep advertising to me, which a lot of kids don't, by the way. They're just in it because their mates are, right? Now, life happens outside of Facebook, and there's some things that no matter how much you want to, you can never change. I mean, you can't just press a button and get educated. You can't press a button and have experience, and you can't press a button and have relationships. And all those three things require you to go out there and do those things. There's no shortcut to it, right? Yeah. And getting fit is another one. There's no shortcut to it. There actually is no. You have to commit yourself physically and outside of any social platform or whatever to something, and it's a difficult thing to do. So people are so used to that quick gratification thing that, you know, the way Facebook and Uber Eats works, and everything's just available, right? So, but especially younger kids, like, you know, I'm talking about some of my workforce, 20-year-olds, right? Millennials, you know, young millennials, you know, guys like that are your age. Yeah. Well, some of the ones that can't see like where that's headed are sort of in that trap, that depression trap, right? Where they're like, why do I feel shit? You feel shit because you see all this stuff you want and you can't see the link to how to get it. And you don't understand that the link is experience. And you don't get experience by looking at Facebook for 10 years. You get experience by getting out there and doing shit, right? Living your life, making your mistakes in real world. Like, I traveled in my 20s. I got arrested in the States. I drank, I partied, I did like in my 20s, I lived life. Whereas a lot of people I see now don't even have that opportunity, right? They're just living their life through social media. Like, I've got 15,000 followers. Like, that's not fucking life, right? And then all of a sudden you're in your mid-30s and wondering why I'm not feeling happy or like accomplished. It's because you're not experiencing life. You're not experiencing real relationships. Like, you've got 15,000 friends online, but I guarantee you that, like, you don't have any really close, meaningful relationships with a lot of people. And that's a hard thing, you know?
Yeah. Let's not get too deep on the politics, but like, I mean, I don't think you should fight it. Like, it just is what it is. Like, it's
100%.
It's not like get off your phone no, you're going to be in your phone more and more and more.
Yeah. Technology's there. Yeah.
And I disagree that you can't make deep, meaningful relationships online. You know, I think especially like kids growing up in my generation, or kids a bit younger than me.
Yeah.
Like, the friendships that they build on Minecraft and Roblox and Fortnite are real, man. Are just as real as you and that guy who almost died on that codeine trip together. I'm not saying you don't codeine, but I'm saying, like, that's what I'm.
Yeah. My thing is mainly more to do with that depression side of thing. Like, I just think, you know, stripping it back, I just think it's difficult when you're looking at everyone else seemingly achieving their goals and you feeling insignificant when you feel like you're not. And that's a dangerous place to be for a lot of people who, you know, because a lot of older guys that are successful and business owners and stuff, it's not like we turn around and go, you know, here's my life story. And, you know, because a lot of the guys that are successful, they fucked up their whole life, right? It took a while to get there, you know? So I just think younger people are quite hard on themselves. They've got so much to offer, but they just are hard on themselves.
No, we judge ourselves a lot because you don't see the realistic pathway to success. Yeah. You see sort of the ones that stick out. You know, you see the crypto millionaires, you see the blah, 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 blah. And it's, I heard I don't know where it was from, but they said the problem isn't get rich quick. The problem is get rich easy.
Right. Okay.
And I think that's like for our generation, you know, there's nothing wrong with getting rich quick. I think if you do, you know, you can make money in a short span of time.
Yeah.
But we want to do it, like you said. Yeah. You don't want the challenge. You don't want
the way I would liken it to might be something like a fat loss pill, right? You have 10 different fat loss pills, and maybe you lose 20 kilos in a month, but it's not sustainable. And the thing is, you haven't become the person that's required to sustain that, right? So maybe you do make $10 billion in a year, but you're probably going to lose it a year later. So money's not this thing that you just hoard in your room. It's not like this thing. It's like oxygen. It comes, it goes. It's a relationship. It's not the thing. And that's where I think people get it wrong. You know, it's just about your relationship in understanding, you know, the environment, what makes it tick, what makes it flow. It's managing it. It's not necessarily, you don't store it in a room. It doesn't sit there. You know?
So, you know, like I said before, you're very introspective and sort of thoughtful about a lot of these things. And I'm sure you apply that to your business as well. Like, what do you want to create with it? Like, what is Ark?
Yeah.
When you extrapolate it, when you like go in the matrix and you're like, what is it? You know
Look,
what I mean?
when I started when I initially had the idea of Ark, I really thought of the ego side of it was more like the Apple of joinery, huge glass factories where people walk in, everyone looks like, a medical student, and you could eat off the floor. And it's kind of like a new way of being a cabinetry company just around the world, like massive. Like I go big, I go big or go home. Now, that's the vision, right? But then you run your business and things go a bit different. The way I see things now for us as a business moving forward is Ark Joinery, I always want to be basically a premium service, right? The problem with having a high-end detailed architectural company is that you can't be all things to all people. So I think Ark Joinery just needs to service its part of the business and do that really well. But for to have a financially viable business, you need volume, you need money coming in, right? And that's when I started looking at the other side of the business, cabbage, because I think you need to have a good productization mix in your business so that you've got a good, well-balanced business, so that you're not like, if all you do is take on high-end joinery, then that means your service is up here, right? But your clients don't all want to pay their—
I would argue that your product is up here,
but
your service may not actually.
Well, your product, let's just say your product or service, right, is up here. You only want to offer a high-end product. But your client coming in the door doesn't want to really— you might get someone paying up here once every now and then, but then they're paying down there. And you sort of take what you can, but you still have to offer that level of service. Whereas if you have a good product mix, you can have the Ark Joinery that only does 10 kitchens a year, but we only do— like if someone comes up to us, we only do a kitchen over 100K. If anything less than that, sorry, we don't do it. Because we have a good product mix and we've got a whole trade volume-based part of the business that carries it, right? And so I just think if you can be smart about how you have, how you productize your business, it could be through furniture, it could be one-off vanities, it could be whatever, but having an understanding that maybe I need to have a volume part of the business. And so that will allow me to focus very well on the few clients that I do take on that. And then what that does is sets you apart as a very premium company with that. So if I'm going to Ark Joinery, I already know then they don't do kitchens less than 100K or whatever, you know what I mean? It allows you to focus on that a lot more, and you segment your business, but it also means that your business doesn't suffer because if you only did say 5 kitchens a year, whatever, it might not be financially viable to do that, right?
Well, I mean, when you think of Porsche, you think of the GT3.
Yeah.
Like you think of the 911.
Yeah.
But that's all supported by the Cayennes and the Macans.
100%, 100%, right? So you need to have a product mix that makes sense for your business.
Actually, a better example would be the Camry to the Lexus LFA, because they actually lose money on that.
Yeah.
But that's the halo of the brand.
That's it, right? And it's got to make sense for you and your position. I mean, ultimately, what do you want in your business, or what does the business owner that's watching want for their business, right? For me, for Ark Joinery, I want Ark Joinery to be a bit of a legacy for me, my kids, and moving forward. It's not about the money for me, but I want a financially, solid business as well. I love the idea of tech and innovation, and doing the other side of the business has allowed me to sort of play with that as well, because I get bored as well. Sometimes you need energy. You want to be trying new things in your business as well to keep it moving forward. Yeah. So it's just an ongoing journey and evolution. You try things that they might not work or whatever, and sometimes logically things make sense and then they don't work and you don't understand why. You just have to go through it.
All right. So now you have to explain to me why you chose to take on the task of creating a business like Cabbage. So what is Cabbage?
So Cabbage,
and the logo does look like a cabbage, if you're wondering.
Thank you. Yes. Cabbage, and the name even it's actually misspelt because cabbage has 2 B's.
Yeah.
The first thing was I thought of cabinets packaged and then cabbage.
It's cool. It's awesome.
That was the premise. Yeah. The idea with it really is that I saw an opportunity, and I thought, well, I've got all this I've got a full manufacturing capability now. I've got a full factory. How often is your CNC going 24 hours a day?
I don't run a CNC, but yes.
Do you know what I mean?
But how can you run if you're cutting if you got a 3618 like load off load auto label?
Yeah.
Are you cutting 70 sheets a day?
You could be look.
So I'm saying, can you sustain that 6 days a week?
Well,
5 days a week?
what it's about. It's that whole thing about don't worry about creating the perfect end product. Yeah. Get something going, and that's what I did. I spent a lot of time on the front end, right? So the first problem I saw was that there wasn't anything really available for me, right? When I started in the industry, if there was an option for me to go online, order everything I needed, draw it up, have it flat packed or assembled and sent to me anywhere in the country in 7 days, and I could compete against, the joiner down the road that's got $500,000 worth of machinery, I would have been all in. But it didn't really.
That's interesting, because in Melbourne we have those flat pack supply. Like we use a cutting edge service.
Yeah.
We send them CNC. Like we
send them G-code. Cutting edge exists.
We send them G code.
Yeah.
So we send them G code to their CNCs.
Yeah.
And we send the materials there.
Yeah.
And they cut it and send it to us within 5 working days.
Yeah, right. And
but I've heard that in Sydney that doesn't exist.
No, it doesn't exist. And not just Sydney. I mean, I sent a kitchen last week to Karratha. You know what I mean? Like,
I don't know what that is.
Yeah, like Western Australia. I send stuff to regional areas, right? Well, for us, the whole idea is that Ark Joinery is geographically constrained, right? I can only go where I can install, right? But cabbage, I can send anywhere in Australia or New Zealand or overseas or whatever. Like, depends on the product. And no one's really nailed it on the head in terms of because there's cutting edge services. Don't get me wrong. There's places in Sydney you can go if you know where to go. A, but B, it's kind of very manual, and then you got to sort of write down this, and then I might draw it up, and I might get back to you, I might not. This is all about empowering the builder or the cabinet maker or the licensed tradie to set up an account, go in, design everything at your own leisure. It links live links to like Polytech's catalogs, Laminex catalogs in real time, so that the pricing is very accurate. Right, that's probably the biggest part of it, is that for the back end works really well, so that when you're drawing, say you're looking at a wine rack or like say a drawer unit, and all the materials are priced accurately, you're getting a price then and there when you draw it. So at midnight, you're the builder, you've only got time to draw up a small kitchen. You can do it anytime you want, get the price. You don't have to ring me. You don't have to ask me to do that stuff for you. And then when you do want to proceed, you just proceed, pay, and it's there in 3 or 4 days. It's done. So the whole idea was more about, it might not be the only solution to people, but it could be a really good backup.
That's beautiful.
Yeah.
Talk me through the software.
Okay. So what do you want to know about the software?
Everything. How does it? So let's go with design.
Right.
What's the engine behind the design? Like what are you running it off?
Okay, so we've got a team in Melbourne that sort of that have developed the software. So there's parts of it I probably couldn't get too deep with the technical side of it.
Is it like Go cabinets or?
Yeah, very similar. Yeah. So you've heard of Go cabinets?
Yeah, I have. I forgot they existed.
Yeah.
But they were growing quite quickly, I think.
Yeah. And a lot of people use them, right?
Mm.
So a lot of manufacturers use them, but no one's actually created like their own brand, right? So it's more about creating a brand that can talk to our customer as a manufacturer, right?
Because, so is your back end Go cabinets?
Yes. Well, it's Cabinetry Online, right?
Yeah. which is the software company.
Which is the software company. Yeah, that's right. Yeah. So same developers, right? And the reason is it's stable. It's, spent a lot of time and effort making it what it is.
No reason to go out and try to build something yourself.
Well, the back end, and the whole thing is really, it's about what you want to be doing is you want to create a product quickly, right? You want to get it to market quickly. You want to test your brand. You want to make sure that you're resonating with your audience. And if that part works and that tool works for that, you can always develop it from that point onwards.
I love that you're using Cabinets Online, but you're not relying on Go cabinets for the distribution and inbound lead.
Correct.
System.
Yeah.
Because brand is a very important.
Brand's everything, man. Brand's everything, really. Yeah.
So, okay, and so we can go on the website. It's a web-based design system.
Yep.
We design it, gives us live pricing because you have a back-end database.
Correct. Yep.
And you can modify the pricing in there to suit your and you license
pricing libraries as well. So product libraries. You want it. You need points of difference as well. So you need like for us, we've got things like options for our customers. Some of our customers don't want to draw the jobs, right? So they'll email us a drawing and then we'll go, well, when they go to cabbage.com, they log in, they can actually pick a drawing service or they can pick a checking service. So if they do draw something and they're worried about, I don't know if I've done it right, I can pay another $50 and just get someone in the office to check it. It's all about what you want to do is you almost want to create a white hat option for people. If you're going to go down this avenue, I want to create a fully customizable white hat solution that will help the trade. And I only want to help the trade. For me, it's not about, Mrs. Jones down the road. It's about the new builder or the cabinet maker that's gone out on his own needing the support and experience that my company can offer, right? And then at a really good price that makes him money and makes him happy, essentially giving him all the credit for the job from his client. Because if he's making the money and he's happy with the product, then there's going to be.
I've got no problem telling people that we don't have a CNC.
Yeah,
because it's the juice isn't it. With respect to all you guys who own, my dad owns 2 CNCs.
Yeah.
The juice isn't in the CNC. Especially at the end of if you're operating sort of at the higher end of the market. So yeah, you're solving a really big problem for. You're massively reducing a barrier of entry.
Yeah. Look, when I went into business, it wasn't about this at all. I mean, this is I had an idea, and it evolved and it became what it became. But I think what you need to do as a business owner, especially in uncertain times, is you need to be aware of what your actual true capacity is, right? So a lot of businesses go, I've got a joinery company and I do, $1.5 million, but their machine's sitting there for 16 hours out of 24 or 20 out. Probably, actually, I know most guys probably use 2 hours of their CNC a day max.
If you think about it, right? If let's say most guys are cutting 35 sheets a day.
Yeah.
Pretty conservative, depending on what you're cutting and whatnot.
Yeah.
70 sheets of cabinets is a lot of cabinets for 2 or 3 tradesmen to work with.
Yeah.
That's a lot of cabinets for the size of factory that you likely have. So to run that for 5 days is just not possible.
It is, and this is the thing. You have to be smart about what you've got. I mean, you can't do it on a 100 square meter factory. I mean, I've got 1,000 square meters with a mezzanine. I've got 11 meter ceilings, right? I've thought about how we do things. For us, it's not about, where a lot of traditional businesses have gone wrong is they'll have a factory full of cabinets and that makes your ego look good. Like, wow, like we're busy, blah, blah, blah. That's a load of shit, right? It's about getting in and the fuck out quickly. Right. And it's all about how quickly you can turn it out. That's why 70% of my orders currently, through the Cabbage platform, they're flat packed, which is awesome because it's cheaper for the client.
Why would you even offer an assembly service?
Because
of the white hat.
Yeah. And not only that, we charge for it. It's not like we don't charge for it.
Of course.
But also it's good for me, especially when we're quiet, because I can turn it on or off too, right? So especially when I'm quiet, I make sure it's there because it's a potential upsell, right? But like you said, why even offer it? I mean, it could get to that point.
Our flat pack company, we love them because that's all they do. They will not put a screw in anything. And they love working with us because we're not going to go screaming back for an edge because we've got an edge bander, we've got tradesmen, we've got.
I guess the difference is that with us, we are also offering it to people outside of the cabinetry industry, like builders or plumbers, for example, that want a vanity, and they don't necessarily have that skill. But especially in Sydney, we mainly offer assembly just to Sydney because we can deliver it easily.
Logistics is
easy, But that being said, we've sent assembled stuff to all over the country. It just depends on what the project is, and then obviously they've got to pay delivery. So from a financial point of view, it's more on the customer. It's up to them, really. Yeah.
And at the end of the day, the builder's still saving 20% at least on the kitchen.
Oh, more than that, yeah. If it was compared to
so you guys are charging at a very competitive margin.
Yeah. We're very competitive. We do it. We want to make sure that there's enough meat in it for them to not just make their margin, but to allow for overheads, to allow for maybe something doesn't go right. The worst thing that could happen is you don't have enough in it and it costs, they have a bad experience. It costs them too much money and, everyone at the table needs to eat. So
you want to price it such that they can run a sustainable business.
Correct. Yeah. And you want it to be a good experience for them. So they made money. It was a good product. They were happy with it. It was a good service. And whether or not they decide to use us all the time, they know that we're there and we're reliable. That's kind of what we want to offer.
Does the Cabinets Online platform, does that send production orders and things through to your system? Like
from their end?
Well, I'm sure. Like,
oh yeah. So
I'm sure it's like connected to.
It's
your
all
system.
It's all connected. Yeah, everything's connected. So the way we have it set up is the whole idea. The way it makes sense from a business point of view is that there is no real need to handle much between. Like, so if they order, say you order something, I just, unless there's a variation request or something, I just have a look at it and just press OK, download the CSV and the code and put it on the machines. Off we go. Yeah. I don't really have to look at. And then I generate the reports, which give me a picking list or an order list. And usually I can order that day, cut the next day. By the second day, it's wrapped on a pallet out. It's gone. So it's a very efficient way of doing business. And if you look at it, like let's say someone orders a kitchen, that could be $5,000, $7,000, $10,000. If you do 4 or 5 of them in a day, which is it's not hard to do. It can form a really solid piece of the business. And what you're doing is you're providing something to you're providing value to someone else that didn't really drain you of your resources. You know what I mean? And that's really important. You're using infrastructure that's there, it's reliable, and you're also using machinery that you already have. And in the case of assembly and stuff like that, you might be utilizing resources. The guys might be building something and then they've got 2 or 3 hours left in the day and it's like, hey, we need these 5 cabinets built for so-and-so. They're there, right? So you're not having to go out there and get all these new resources, and especially if you're set up for manufacturing, you just need to look at leveraging your business to maximize its potential output, really. And that's what we've done. Yeah. Yeah.
Are you worried about the conflict of interest where you're more incentivized from a very narrow point of view? You're more incentivized to do your high margin private work as opposed to doing your cut. I'm going to call it a cut.
Yeah.
What do you want me to call it?
Yeah, flat pack. Yeah.
Yeah. As opposed to your flat pack service.
Yeah. Yeah.
Or are you? You're thoughtful, so you're probably going to always make sure you have a certain level of capacity for your flat pack.
Yeah, I think. Look, my wife's father said to me, "Don't create demand for a product you can't, give. So don't create the demand if you can't provide the product, basically, because you'll piss a lot of people off." So I think you have to be a bit conservative in the way that you approach this kind of a thing. And you have to have backup. You have to have, for us, I know about 4 or 5 other good mates that have manufacturing capability that I've already spoken to, and I've gone, hey, if I get really busy, would you be interested in this, this, and this? Then I would actually just email code to them for them to manufacture. So you need to have, imagine if it just went gangbusters tomorrow, I need to be able to at least somehow deal with that.
Right. So you've got 4 or 5 posts set up for
Yeah.
Oh, well, Go Cabinets is very, Cabinets Online is very flexible because a lot of guys already have have posts set up for the G code.
No, I guess where the big differentiator is how you're set up, right? Because it needs to be set up accordingly. Like, for example, my CNC is going to be completely different to someone else's, right? And the tooling, the working speeds.
So have you created like a post for all this?
Yeah. So, and this is the thing, you sort of, if you're going to do something, like the way that I've thought about it is we haven't needed to, but if the overflow work opportunity arises, then we have things in place that allow us to set up quickly a secondary manufacturing source, a third, a fourth, a fifth. Supply chain is a big one as well. So, our supply chain partner is TNT. So, I mean, they can get stuff from here to Perth in a day, they move quick, So you need to have, I've thought about the global things, but there's things that still go wrong day to day. Might have a job come through and the tooling's incorrect or something doesn't work. So you still have to deal with those minor issues. But, as a general rule, there is a good amount of capacity that's there already. If I got really busy, you could do multiple shifts. There's always a way, right? Yeah. The thing is, if you get hung up on all the reasons not to do something, then you'll find a reason not to do it. So you kind of need to do it and then deal with what's in front of you to get ahead and to progress the business. And again, the business talks to you. All of a sudden you start seeing what's actually working and what's worth my time. Maybe I need to focus more on this because it's doing so well or whatever. It's just, everyone's sort of different in terms of what they want to achieve and how they want to achieve it.
You spoke about gut feeling intuition,
Yeah.
spidey senses, whatever you want to call it. So how do you see the business structure going? Like, do you see the cabbage really growing and taking over? Like, what do you see? What's your intuition tell you?
I think the next 2 years are going to be 2 years for a lot of businesses that can make a lot, that can really boom. I think we're heading into a boom with the amount of work. And I'm starting to see signs of, I look at little things, when I drive down a strip in Paddington, for example, I start noticing, during last COVID, there was a lot of for lease signs, and now I'm starting to see a lot of them are people are starting to occupy them. And so that tells me that there's new business, and there's kind of like, almost feel like there's this reinvigoration in the community. People are wanting to take risks. People are wanting to start things. And that's going to happen in our industry, where I feel like a lot of the good guys are now having that chat with their wives and partners at home going, maybe I'm going to go out on my own and this and that. So I see those things as signs, and which is why I've sort of positioned myself with cabbage, because I do believe in the next year or two that could form a big part of our business. And I think it's a good product offering to a lot of people, could help solve a bit of an issue that currently exists. So yeah, for me, it'll form a big part of the business. Ark Joinery will always be there, and I love Ark Joinery, but like you said, you've got to look at your market and where it's headed, both from a resource point of view, and a business value point of view as well, in terms of, like I guess what I'm trying to say is that, like, you don't just rely on one thing. Don't just get complacent and think that it's the best thing ever because I've been doing it for a couple of years, because the market does what it wants to do and it moves quickly. And sometimes if you've got a gut feel and you go, I won't worry about it, all of a sudden you're 2 years late to something. So you kind of do need to be looking at what's actually happening in the landscape. In our industry, I think, because it's moving pretty quickly at the moment, and it's we're going through a bit of change, I think. Yeah, from the traditional model of people wanting to just do everything through a traditional joinery shop. A lot of people are becoming very empowered. A lot of people have the skill themselves. So I feel like a lot of businesses there's going to be a lot more smaller businesses, which is evident. It's already happening. A lot of smaller cabinet makers are arising, and there's going to be even more. So, I just think that I'd like to be a part of that part of the business as well.
Yeah, I mean, I think if we weren't doing, if we were doing more like private residential focused work, that wasn't so custom and architectural and sort of relying on the architect for the design, I think a service like yours would be, or would have been, very attractive.
And I guess it really comes down to what the business owner or the proprietor really wants out of their business too. Like, so a lot of our clients are, they might be a cabinet maker and they already got a joinery company that they're using, right? Like, I'll give you one example. There's a guy in Wagga, and his joinery guys are so busy. It's like, man, I can't get, like, I've got another customer that wants I can get another 2 kitchens in the next month. I can make another 50 grand, but my joinery guy can't do it. So it's about offering capacity to people as well, to be able to say, hey, you're over there, but you don't have anyone in your geographic location that can help you out. So let's leverage technology to be able to help you with your problem by solving my problem too, because maybe I'm not busy. Do you know what I mean? And so you're solving both problems at the same time. And I like to think of, our industry, I think we need to be more innovative, and I like that innovative way of thinking, because everyone at the table eats, everyone's happy, everyone benefits from something like that. It doesn't necessarily mean that you're taking work from another joinery company or you're doing this or you're doing that. No, you're just creating options and you're solving a small problem in a big market.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's very interesting.
Yeah. So
cabbage is here to stay.
Yeah. Hopefully. We'll see what happens. I'll definitely keep pushing with it, and we'll see what happens. Maybe we'll have another chat in a year and we'll see if it still exists.
Yeah. Did you see that episode I did with the Laminex guy?
Yeah, Haven Kitchens.
What do you think about Haven?
Man, it was a really interesting chat. Look, I'm probably, I kind of feel like it's a bit of a generic offering, to be honest, if I'm truthful. Like, I think they've got the right thought. See, what someone like Laminex has, they've got data, man, and they know what's going on, like based on data. It's just data, right? So they go, shit, this is where the industry's going and we're going to do something about it. Now, they also are very restricted in what they're able to do, right? They're not as, malleable or as maneuverable as someone small like me. They've got a lot more overheads and things to consider. So they can only put themselves in a position where they need to mitigate their risk, with their offering. And that's what they've done, I feel like, with their offering. I think it will do well in a certain area, which is probably why they're trying it in a small geographical area to begin with. But I also kind of feel, unfortunately, that it's like 20 years too late. Like, if they'd have done that 20 years ago, it would have been sweet. But you can't come into 2020 and tell someone, hey, you've just got to use the same size of cabinet and we're limited to these colors, because the client's going to demand more. And I feel like that might be the issue that, they're going to be faced with, or, the feedback they're going to get. Because as a cabinet maker, even if you're a one-man band, you want to offer your client the world. And if your client says to you, hey, I want a 30 mil filler and I want this and I want it in that color, you've got to be able to deliver that. And the thing is, someone else will offer it to him. So, if nothing else existed, they'd be all right. But the fact that there are other cut and supply options, and the fact that there is other guys that will service that market, I feel like that might be the issue. But I'm sure they will definitely still make money. They'll still sell some kitchens and stuff, but I don't know how much it's really going to sort of take off.
Yeah. I think
like, without sounding too pessimistic about it, like I don't know the ins and outs of the business and that. Yeah. I love Laminex. We've used them for years and have nothing against them, but I just think that model, for me, it just seems a little bit outdated. That's just my honest opinion about it.
I think I agree with that. I think there should be maybe a little more innovation on the product side.
Yeah.
And I think it needs a lot of juice on the branding and marketing side. It needs a lot of juice.
Yeah.
And just from what I'm seeing, my personal opinion is I don't think they're being as thoughtful and executing as well as they need to be on that marketing side. Like, they're still doing like bullshit, like client testimonials and I saw they're doing like this influencer campaign, but it's just corporate is just so fucking tone deaf.
And it's see-through. Yeah. Corporate see-through, right?
It's so tone deaf and just generic and
When you're that size of a company as well,
you're limited.
You're so limited, man. Like, you could have the brightest spark walk into the office with the best idea, and they've got to get it past the board of directors, meeting, right? And it's not going to happen, because for them at their level and with the amount of infrastructure and risk that they've got, they're all about mitigating risk. It's like, okay, well, we're only going to do this, and this. We're only going to do set sizes because the machines, like, they're front loading their work too, right? So by only offering set sizes and set colors, it means they can create all the parts well ahead of time, right? So, but the problem with that is that they're not really solving the problem that they're set out to solve, which is time, right? Because what they've done is you might create set size cabinets ahead of time, but anyone can go to IKEA and buy something set, or Caboodle or whatever. So that product already exists, right? It's not like, so I'd have to be an avid Laminex fan to really want to do it. And not only that, if I don't know about Laminex or Haven or whatever, I'm not loud enough in the marketplace, like, to just understand that it's there, and that's kind of where I think their issue might be.
Well, if that's where brand is the variable, in my opinion. Like if you were a Laminex fan, if you were a Haven fan, and there's no reason why they can't create Laminex or Haven fans. But if they're just going to do trade shows and magazines, and TV commercials, like, if they're not spending $10 million on TikTok next year, like, but that,
I agree. Yeah. 100%. Branding's so important. But these guys think differently because it's such a small segmentation of their actual market, right? So obviously their main part of the market is supplying cabinet makers, right? So they're trade to trade, or B2B or whatever. But it's only going to form a very small part of the business. So I'm kind of confused because that for such a big company to focus on such a small kind of reward. Maybe it's just their way of dipping their toe in to see. Maybe this is their way of trialing if that side of the business works before they commit to a bigger marketing push. I don't know, but it is an interesting kind of. It's definitely. I think it's telling when big companies like that are starting to look at that as a business opportunity. I mean, that's telling you. I mean, what I just said before about where the market's headed. I think, bigger companies have an opportunity to, empower smaller companies.
Well, if you look at like the whole gig economy.
Yeah, man.
I mean, like
Uber.
Just freelance. I mean, in the creative space, let's say.
Yeah.
How many full-time employee drummers do you know?
Yeah, that's right.
That might not be a great example.
Yeah, it's
but
a terrible example. It's barely any work for any musician.
But yeah, like there's just that shift in the economy.
Yeah.
So
the gig economy thing is very relevant in that sense because and even us, I mean, if you think about the way I started my business, it was through sharing someone else's factory, and like 20 or 30 years ago, it probably wouldn't exist either, right? So that happened through connecting with someone with the internet. Now it's just evolving, right? So if you're in a marketplace and you're available and you're loud enough in that marketplace and people actually like your brand and what you offer, you don't necessarily have to reinvent the wheel. You don't have to be completely different. But if what you're offering is what the market wants, then there'll be demand for it. But you can have the best back end and terrible marketing and not loud enough in your audience, and you don't have the options available to your market, and they just won't go there. It's as simple as that.
Yeah, I think for us, like we came on the market very hot, and the brand and the marketing was too much for our actual product. Yeah. So that's why I sort of just quietened the fuck down for a year and just really focus on the product. Yeah. Because you want it to be balanced.
And I think one step forward, two steps backwards. Yeah. Sometimes that's a good thing for a business. Like seriously, like people underestimate the value in like getting excited, moving forward, and then going, "Oh shit, man!" Like because then you can actually step back and look at it for what it is, and actually put your time and energy into the parts that are working for you, right? So it's great that you have that energy and enthusiasm, and you move forward with marketing, and it's great that you realize that half that shit's not working and now need to slow down because it's going to give you your next move. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, it gives you perspective, gives you room to sort of strategize and pivot.
Yeah, man.
And sort of reconsolidate as you move forward.
Yeah, for sure. It's definitely it's been how I've run my business. 2 steps, 3 steps back, one
something
forward.
Steps, something back.
Some amount of steps. I don't know. Something about steps.
What day are you guys breaking up this year?
So we finish tomorrow's our last day actually. So we're wrapping up a couple of jobs at the moment, and Thursday we've got our Christmas party lunch.
What's happened? You said that in kind of like a seedy way.
Like no, not a seedy way.
What's happening at the Christmas lunch?
No. We just all get together, have a few drinks and some food and stuff. Nothing too over the top. I think we generally throughout the year we balance like work and we'll have barbecues and we try and do some things. Like in the last year, admittedly, it's been a bit crazy, so I haven't really been able to do as much as I would have liked to with COVID and all the rest of it. But that's just another thing again that adds to that whole morale thing. Sometimes as an owner, you need a sense when everyone's just over it and tired, and sometimes the best thing for everyone is stop them all working and have a barbecue with them. So I think everyone's looking forward to the end of year and having a drink and a relax, and then having some time off. So and then we're right back into it on the 10th. We're booked out, so we've got to keep going. Yeah.
Let's end this in a cute kind of way. What are you grateful for in this moment? What are you sort of looking to sort of being just as you reflect and whatnot? Like, what are you like? What's the sentiment? What's the what are you grateful for?
I'm just grateful for all the opportunity that sort of led me to this moment, being here and my family and my kids. Business can always be better, and everyone wants to sort of achieve more, but I think it's the little things, like just being able to get a coffee and being able to walk down the street. It's those little things that you just need to have a couple of those little 1%ers each day that can just put a smile on your face and put things in perspective. And for me, it's things like I'm healthy. I've got 2 legs. I can walk down the street. I can drive. I've got perfect vision. So I'm happy, and as long as I've got my tools, my ability and my hands and my feet, I know that I'll be okay. I can work towards whatever I need to. So very thankful for everything I've got right now.
That's beautiful.
No, thanks.
I'm grateful for the opportunity that we have. You know, like it's. I was driving home yesterday and I just said, I'm alive.
Yeah.
You know, like this opportunity, and then you know, in this beautiful country that we live in. I don't care what anyone says. Like
100%.
you have opportunity. You
100%.
can do whatever you want in this country, and that is. People talk about empowerment, whatever, you know, but like that, I don't know how much more empowering you can get. Like you can do whatever you want in this country, and you can create anything for yourself.
100%.
And that, as a young person, is such a humbling and beautiful thing. So that's what I'm grateful for this year.
Yeah, awesome, man. And I think you're 100% right. You know, we've got huge opportunity here, and just don't sweat the small stuff.
Yeah. Don't sweat the small stuff, man. Yeah.
That's it, man.
Just get over it.
That's it.
Actually, don't get that's a bad.
You just got to be. You got to be. You know, don't be pessimistic and
don't linger and don't judge yourself.
That's it.
Yeah, just don't judge yourself. Just be kind to yourself, man. Like,
that's it, man.
Let's wrap it up.
Cool.
You got to go to the airport.
Got to go to the airport. That's it. Thanks, mate.
Thank you, Andrew Jhavery.
Close. Jhavery.
That's it. Cabbage, CABAGE.
.com.au.
Cabbage with one G, with one B. Cabbage with one B. .com.au.
Yeah.
And Ark Joinery is
Ark
easy.
Joinery. That's it.
Like Noah's Ark.
Like Noah's Ark.
Yeah.
That's it. That's me.
Lovely.
Too easy,
Thanks
man.
so much.
Thanks.
Continued success. Thanks.
Always. Thank you.